Hi, thanks for tuning in. This is the ASX and Sectors weekly chart analysis for the week ending 23rd of February 2024. First chart is the parent index. This is the S&P ASX 200 index, the XJO. And you can see that price traded lower this week with a reduced spread, but extremely high volume. Now, you've probably got the highs of the range going through there like that. This was very low volume over Christmas and probably shouldn't be marked as a high. It's what I would call fluff. There's probably not much volume there. It's not where you would mark the highs of the range. So you've seen price accelerate higher and establish new highs a month back. And then since then, the market has consolidated sideways, pretty much inside the range of this bar. And this week, the very narrow spread as prices effectively moved lower on really high volume, but then recovered to close back above mid-bar, suggests that this is pretty strong buying support. Now, you need that to be confirmed, and the confirmation would come from a push higher in response. You may get some further testing for supply and absorption in this range, but when the market does move, I'm anticipating it will move higher in response and expecting that this is a period of consolidation and absorption taking place, and the market's going to move to new highs. Now, if the market does break down, what has been bought in this zone will likely be dumped and dumped pretty quickly. And if that happened, you would see a pretty bad down bar in response. It would be pretty serious. I'm not expecting that's going to happen, but just beware, we don't have confirmation at this point. What we do have is a period of consolidation effectively at the all-time highs, and it does look like buying support derived, and the market is probably winding itself up, building strength, coiling up like a spring, and is about to push higher in response. Wait for confirmation though, wait for the breakout. There'll probably be a test of the breakout briefly, and then you can get in and go with it. The mid-cap sector. The mid-cap sector's played a bit of catch-up more recently, and you've got the highs of the range coming through here, and it corresponds pretty nicely with this level here. So that all makes good sense. Your breakout line above's up here, and these were the two low volume weeks over Christmas and New Year. You can see prices accelerated high here. The market has spent some time this week testing for supply. On a weekly chart, some daily testing for supply will appear as an overlap bar below the previous close. And the market's obviously been comfortable with the absorption that's taken place there. It's just popped up to close higher for the week. So that looks pretty comfortable compared to the parent index. And in a similar fashion, this market has pushed higher and has been in consolidation mode, probably for most of this week. The small ordinaries, and the small ordinaries are really seriously in consolidation mode. Look at this, the last 3 weeks have all traded inside the previous bar's range as an inside bar. This is a market really coiling itself up and building strength for a push, a really serious push in one direction or another. And I would anticipate, similar to the parent index, that this market's going to attempt at least to push higher in response. And similar to the parent index, if all of the buying support that's come in here as the market's been consolidating and absorbing supply was dumped, it's going to cause a really serious down bar in response. I don't think that'll happen, but we don't have any confirmation yet on what's going on. And at this point, I'm only anticipating that this market is strong and it's going to go higher in response. This is the financial sector. Financial sector has probably been the strongest sector since Christmas and New Year. Prices really accelerated higher. We had a period of bullish absorption through here, and then prices pushed higher with real intent. Now, you can see here, I said earlier about the testing for supply, and if you watch my videos, you know I go on about testing for supply all the time, because the market is generally moving higher or testing for supply, absorbing and consolidating. And you can see here, the market overlapped and tested for supply and then closed higher in response. Then the next bar, this little overlap, is testing for supply and then a push higher in response. And then this week, once again, you had testing for supply and a push higher in response. This is how markets often move. There was an acceleration on these two bars, and since then, the market has come back and tested for supply and found that supply was low. That leaves the path of least resistance towards the upside, and price pops higher towards the end of the week. You would see this more clearly, or you would see the testing for supply more clearly if you looked on a daily chart, for instance. It would become more obvious. We're on a weekly chart here, so this little overlap below the previous close is where the market has come back, tested for supply, absorbed any supply that's been drawn out, and then has pushed higher in response. And you see it a lot. This market looks really strong. There's no obvious sign of weakness at all. This is the metals and mining index, and I use this to cover the miners. And you can see that this bar here is a really good example, an extremely high volume of reporting season. The market's gone up at some point, really accelerated lower, and then closed a little off its lows, and it's threatening to break down. I wouldn't say that's a clear breakdown. The market's threatening to break down, and I wouldn't trust it. I wouldn't trust it on that higher volume, really excessive volume, suggests that there's more things going on in the market, and what actually happens on reporting day for any individual company or a reporting week on a weekly chart like this can't be trusted as what the true outcome will be over time. I would wait to see the response on this, because I won't be surprised at all to see the market pop back up and this was all a fakie below previous support. But that remains to be seen. I wouldn't trust it at this point in time. This is the gold sector. And similar, although volume's not particularly high here, but a threatening bar below previous support. It does look like a breakdown, I'll give you that, but it is reporting season, and I wouldn't be trusting that just yet. The underlying hasn't really broken down anything like that, and yet this market appears to have broken down. It may be just stock related in this sector. I would wait for confirmation. You've got support down here, and that's right where the market is at the moment. So perhaps the market will consolidate at that level. I wouldn't trust it as a breakdown right at this point in time, despite the volume actually not being particularly high. Normally that sort of volume would be telling you this was true and genuine trading. So maybe I'll be wrong there. We'll see. The ASX energy sector is also threatening to break down. You can see prices pushed down below previous support, and it did recover to close back up about mid-bar and almost at the breakdown line. So this is not a breakdown. Volume was pretty high, and it is reporting season, so I guess the reporting has played some part in that awkward-looking bar. I would wait for the response to that bar before I made any serious decisions. I certainly wouldn't trade immediately off that bar. I would wait for the response. There's no doubt the market is threatening to break down, but the recovery back to mid-bar suggests that buying support is present in the market. So just wait and see on that. The ASX healthcare sector, which had been extremely strong until last week. You see price pulled back pretty seriously last week, and it's attempting to consolidate just here, adjacent to where the market found support previously. And the market has found some support this week. There was a little dip lower below the previous bar's low, but price did recover. It didn't continue lower, and it's closed as a slight up bar. So that's some buying support coming in. Now, I don't think the market is going to accelerate higher in response. More likely the market will trade sideways in consolidation and absorption mode, at least until supply dies down. You can see that volume was increased this week over the previous week's volume. I imagine this was stock related within the sector, and the market has recovered somewhat this week, or at least consolidated this week. This is the industrial sector. And the industrial sector is threatening to break out. Your breakout line probably goes through there. And market last week pushed higher. Now, I called for a period of consolidation this week. The market attempted to continue higher. And you can see that spreads narrowed considerably, but volumes increased. Supply is being drawn out here, and that's what you would expect. The market's attempting to break out. It would normally draw out supply, and you would see a period of consolidation in this sort of area. But the market has attempted to continue higher on the momentum of last week's breakout, and it's drawn out supply. And it will no doubt have to come back this week, I expect, probably into this area here, and attempt to consolidate. This may take a little week or two where this sort of thing happens for a little while. And if volumes then come down and prove that the supply has been absorbed, then the market might accelerate higher for a second time. And if during this period here, supply continues to be drawn out, it's persistent and ongoing, and it eventually overwhelms the market, you'll get a down bar in response, and the market will then try to consolidate adjacent to previous support. So at the moment, you've had a pretty serious push higher to effectively new highs, apart from this bar, say, because this is the old highs there, and that failed immediately, or almost immediately. So you're having a serious crack at a secondary breakout, and the market didn't attempt to consolidate, it attempted to continue higher. It has drawn out supply. As you would expect, there's going to have to be a period of consolidation, probably in this zone here. That's what I would expect. Just back to the parent index quickly before we shut up shop. And you put the highs of the range in either there or there, either or. There's clearly a period of consolidation taking place here within the range of this bar, mostly. And this is where the market would break out again. The volume this week was seriously high, so you'll at least start off the week, I expect, with further consolidation like this. Although the reporting season remains ongoing next week, so anything could still happen, but you would expect that you'd have a further narrow spread down bar, at least initially next week, in an attempt to consolidate and prove that this isn't serious and ongoing selling pressure emerging in the market. So that's really high volume, like seriously high volume. I mark the high of it. It's higher than all the volume on this chart by quite a way. That's seriously high volume. And I know from doing the daily chart, this was pretty much on-market traded volume. At least the bulk of it was. So that's pretty serious. And the thing to note here is volume and spread have a close relationship with each other. If you have widespread, you'll normally have high volume. This week, we've got relatively narrow spread, the narrowest spread for 4 weeks, yet we have the highest volume for months and months and months. If that was all selling pressure, this would have been a really serious down bar, but it wasn't. The market dipped lower and recovered back above mid-bar. On super high volume, this looks like buying support has arrived. Really serious and strong accumulation style buying support. And that suggests the market is going to at least attempt to push higher in response at some point in time. It would probably take some unexpected event to change the sentiment here. The positions have been taken. They remain held at this point in time. There's always a danger that during a period of accumulation, positions can be dumped if sentiment changes for some unexpected reason. But if it remains held, I expect this market will make an attempt at least to push higher. Seriously higher, but higher at least. Okay, thanks for your time. See you again next week. See ya.